10 Reasons Old is just a mindset, not a number. There's a phrase we all know: you're only as old as you feel. We hear it casually, tossed out like a platitude. But how often do we pause to really think about what that means? Because I believe it's more than a throwaway line. It's a challenge, a mirror reflecting back the way we view ourselves and the way we let society's definitions box us in. Growing older is inevitable. The number ticks up year after year, whether we like it or not. But feeling old? That's a choice. That's a mindset. One shaped by the culture we live in, by the messages we've absorbed, and most importantly, by the stories we choose to tell ourselves. So today, I want to walk with you through 10 reasons why old is not a number, why it's not something dictated by a calendar, why it's something we have the power to rewrite every single day. Let's begin. 1. Curiosity keeps you young. Think back to the way children move through the world, wide-eyed, always asking why, constantly reaching for more knowledge, more experience, more understanding. But somewhere along the line, so many of us stop asking. We tell ourselves we've seen enough. That curiosity is for the young, that our days of learning are behind us. But the people who stay vibrant, who defy the weight of years, are the ones who never stop wondering. I once met a man in his 80s who had taken up astrophysics, not because it was practical, not because anyone expected him to, but because he had always wanted to understand the stars. He attended lectures with students 60 years younger than him. He bought books. He asked questions without shame. And I'll never forget what he told me. He said, "The moment I stop being curious, that's the moment I truly start aging." Curiosity doesn't belong to the young. It belongs to the hungry, to the ones still reaching out, asking the world, what else? 2. Flexibility is ageless. There's a stereotype that as we grow older, we become rigid, fixed in our opinions, set in our ways. But that doesn't have to be true. Flexibility is a muscle. It's not about age, it's about willingness. I once knew a woman who, after 30 years in the same career, found herself laid off. She was 62. Most people would have expected her to retire quietly, fade into the background. Instead, she enrolled in culinary school. She stood side by side with students barely out of high school, learning to chop, stir, saute, all from scratch. She told me it was terrifying, humbling, but she loved every second of it. Flexibility isn't just about changing careers. It's about being willing to shift your perspective, to admit there's still more to learn. It's about realizing that no matter how many years you've lived, there are still infinite versions of yourself you haven't met yet. 3. Passion has no expiration date. We're sold the idea that passion belongs to the young, that after a certain age, your dreams are supposed to shrink quietly, that big ambitions, wild ideas, the spark that keeps you up at night, that all belongs to your 20s and 30s. But look around, and you'll see people shattering that narrative every day. I once interviewed a man who published his first novel at 71. He'd spent decades working in finance, a stable, reliable career. But tucked away in the drawer beside his bed were handwritten stories, chapters he'd scribbled in spare moments. When he retired, he finally gave himself permission to pursue what had always made his heart race. That novel became a bestseller, not because he was young, but because passion has no expiration date. Whether it's writing, painting, starting a nonprofit, hiking a mountain, it's never too late to light your own fire. 4. Playfulness has nothing to do with age. Somewhere, we've convinced ourselves that growing up means growing serious. That laughter, silliness, play, they're things we're supposed to outgrow. But playfulness is not childish. It's not immature. It's freedom. I think of my neighbor in his 70s who still organizes neighborhood water balloon fights every summer. He wears a grin like a little boy, laughing as he ducks behind bushes, plotting his next throw. He doesn't care who's watching. He doesn't care what's expected. He plays because joy keeps him light on his feet. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. 5. Connection defies age. We often hear that aging is a process of becoming more isolated. That as years pile up, the people around us drift away, leaving us to retreat inward. But connection isn't dictated by numbers. It's a choice we make. I once visited a community center where a group of older women met every week, not just to play cards or drink tea, but to plan local projects. They organized charity drives, babysat for young mothers, started book clubs, hosted events. Their social calendars were fuller than most people half their age. Why? Because they understood that connection doesn't magically appear, it's something you build brick by brick. The people who age well are the ones who keep showing up for others, who stay invested in friendships, in community, in building bridges across generations. Loneliness may knock on the door, but connection is how you choose not to answer. 6. Growth is lifelong. One of the greatest myths we're sold is that by a certain age, we're fully formed. That growth is something reserved for youth. That self discovery stops once you hit middle age. But that couldn't be further from the truth. I've seen people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, people who've survived heartbreak, loss, reinvention, suddenly realize there's still so much more of themselves to explore. One man I met spent decades trapped in a version of himself he thought he had to be stoic, responsible, buttoned up. At 73, he came out as gay. He told me it was the scariest, most liberating moment of his life. He taught me that growth doesn't end, that becoming who you are meant to be is not tied to any age, that you are allowed to meet yourself anew over and over again. 7. Energy is cultivated, not measured by birthdays. Sure, our bodies change with time. We move differently. We tire faster. But energy, the kind that radiates from within, isn't about the absence of wrinkles or the number of candles on a cake. It's about what you choose to pour your attention into. I've met people in their 80s who have more zest, more vitality, more enthusiasm than people half their age. Because they've cultivated energy by staying engaged, by waking up every morning asking, what's possible today? It's not about denying physical aging. It's about refusing to let your spirit atrophy. 8. Perspective deepens, but cynicism is optional. Aging offers something precious, perspective. You've lived through enough storms to know they pass. You've seen enough to know what really matters. But there's a crossroads where perspective can harden into cynicism. The people who stay young at heart, they choose hope, even after loss. even after disappointment. They look for beauty anyway. They believe in change anyway. Because the moment you stop believing the world holds something good, that's the moment you start to feel truly old. 9. Reinvention isn't just for the young. We've been taught that reinvention belongs to youth, that big life changes, career shifts, new cities, bold pivots are things you're supposed to do before 40. But some of the most inspiring reinventions I've witnessed happen well after that. A woman I know spent 30 years in a marriage that no longer fulfilled her. At 60, she moved across the country, rented a small apartment, and began a career as a yoga instructor. It was terrifying, she told me, but it was also the first time she felt completely alive. Reinvention is not about age, it's about bravery. It's about listening to the quiet voice inside you that says, there's more. 10. Gratitude keeps you timeless. And finally, the simplest, most powerful truth I know: gratitude. The people who seem timeless to me, the ones who carry a lightness that transcends age, are the ones who practice gratitude daily. Gratitude for their breath, for the people they love, for small joys, a warm cup of coffee, the way sunlight filters through leaves, a stranger's smile. They don't waste energy lamenting what's been lost, what's slipping away. They anchor themselves in the now. And when you are present, when you are thankful, you are fully alive. And when you are fully alive, age becomes irrelevant. A final reflection. So much of what we call old is a story we've inherited, a story about shrinking, slowing down, fading away. But here's the truth: you are the author. You get to decide what aging means to you. Stay curious, stay connected, keep growing, keep playing, keep loving, keep reinventing, keep saying thank you, and you will never truly be old.